There's a new me coming out, and I just have to live, and I wanna give. I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out. I'm coming out. I want the world to know.
Welcome to the show, Never Too Late Ever, where we focus on making the next chapter of your life the very best chapter ever. So wherever you are, listen in. I am your host, Lorraine Hobing, and I have a great guest that was here last week. Her name is Loretta Brooks, and she's here with me again, and I want you to open your eyes and your ears and pick one little gem from our talk today and put that into your life, and it'll make a difference. So, Loretta, welcome again.
Thank you, Lorraine. I'm so glad you had me back.
Yeah, were you worried I might not?
I know. No, I know. I know where you live now.
That's right. Okay, let me tell you about a little bit about Loretta. So Loretta is a life coach who works directly from her personal experience, sharing the same principle that she has used in her own life for over 15 years. After earning a degree in business accounting from the Pennsylvania State University and becoming a CPA, she worked 20 plus years in the hospitality industry, and I can see that as a project leader. When her career began taking a toll on her health and relationship, she researched wellness and got to work to create a brand new life. She lost over 50 pounds, got involved in community music, and renewed her important relationships. Everything was going as planned until life dealt two huge blows: the sudden death of her husband, and listen in last week if you want to hear about that, and then followed by the loss of her job. Applying everything she learned about change and upheaval, Loretta put into place a daily discipline to rebuild her life while staying focused on taking precious care of what she had. Since then, she has been committed to dedicate the rest of her life to helping others be resilient and inspire them to keep going despite the odds and challenges they must face. So welcome again. I am so happy to have you. I have one other question for you.
Okay.
One other question. One question to start with, because
okay.
I've thought of this one. If somebody asked me, I've thought of my answer. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? If you could go back and give yourself as you were younger, maybe 8 or 9, what advice would you give, or even as a teenager? What do you think that would be?
Oh, that's a good one, Lorraine. Let me think. I would go back and I would tell little Loretta that it was important to not be so quick to fit in. And what do I mean by that? I had a lot of weird thinking that I had to do and be and behave a certain way, right, to be enough and to be worthy. So I actually picked accounting as a major because somebody told me don't major in anything that doesn't get you a paycheck, right? Pick one that's going to give you a paycheck. And so I went around my whole life being things that I was supposed to be, an accountant or whatever. So I would go back and I would tell her, figure out who you are and then run your life from that way. Don't be so agreeable to fit in with other people's definitions for you and other people's, and everybody was well-meaning, don't get me wrong, but I kind of lost myself early on,
Right.
That's what I would tell. That's what I would tell me.
little Loretta and little Lorraine. Wouldn't we be cute together?
I know we would.
I would, and I would go back and tell myself and I'm sure our audience feels the same way. There's so much that we've learned through life that if we could go back and tell ourselves something, but we can tell those things to ourselves today. So, Loretta,
Right.
you can still tell yourself that you are enough right now and that we don't have to fit into anybody else's mold.
Right.
Yeah. So that's great. Now, today you've entitled your talk, Never Give Up, Never. How to Not Give Up and Stay Motivated. Why this subject? Why are you passionate about the topic of not quitting?
I guess, having to do with, the things that I had to go through, that you mentioned, big, severe life traumas. And I found out, what I was made of, really. I mean, you find out that's the good thing. Unfortunately, that's the good thing about these bad things. You find out what you're made of, right?
I think you find out you're stronger than you thought you might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also found out that, that there are things to help you, practices and disciplines that you can do that and to help you get through things. And it just really knocked a lot of stuff into perspective. And what I'm really passionate about is because I see so many people just giving up on the dumbest things. Excuse my French, but I just say, no, you can do this. Don't give up so quickly. You have everything that it takes. We all do, to keep going, and to keep going until we succeed at something that we really want to achieve, right, or experience. And I just feel like if I can share that power or that experience, right, and strength with them, I can show them how to do the same, right?
So what are some ways to stay motivated if you feel like quitting? Maybe it's a diet, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's those gratitudes that we talked about last week. When you feel like quitting, how can we stay motivated? Because there's a critical point in there, right, where we can either go for it and just keep on the road, or we just quit. So what would you suggest for our audience out there? How do you stay motivated when you're just about ready to quit? What do you say to yourself?
Well, so if you're in the process and so you're actively attempting to do something, a lot of people procrastinate, which is a pre-quitting, right? So they don't even get started. But if you're already
it's a pre-quitting.
It's a pre-quit. That's just kind of what I view it as. And that's my favorite thing, frankly, is to procrastinate. But if you're in there and you're already getting started, there's just two things that I think are essential. There's probably a lot more, but it'll be easier just to talk about two. And one is the discipline. So you have to set up. I know nobody wants to hear it, but you have to set up some kind of a daily discipline that will keep you on the right track, right? So, maybe you're going to, clean out your office, say, because it's a mess. And, it just has to be a daily discipline or a weekly discipline, and you have to hold fast to it. And it's best bringing my accounting into play. The second thing is that you have to have some accounting for it or accountability, right? And so it could be, sometimes if I'm trying to do something for a certain amount of times, I just mark it on the calendar every single day. And then if I miss it, I start over again. And I literally mark on the calendar 1, 2, 3, for however long that I want to do this. A great way also is to involve another person that is going to be your cheerleader. And you need to tell them what's going on and be accountable to them. And to be accountable to them is, again, you're giving an accounting or an inventory of what you've just done. So those two things, discipline and the accountability piece, I think are key for staying motivated.
Yeah. I think that's probably what helped me in losing weight is, well, the discipline for sure, but then the accountability, because if I go out on my own, so you know my story, and I've been, going to Weight Watchers and I have to pace that scale, and I have to go in there every week, and not have to. I go in there willingly every week because I know that is what I need is accountability. And I know you with the pounds you've lost, you kind of have accountability system daily. And I think that when we're on our own, often we have good intentions, but there's certain things that accountability does for us because on our own, we tend to begin, not this day, and pretty soon we're fudging and we're doing all of this. But if you're accountable to another person, then you are there's a day of reckoning each week or whatever it may be. And on our own, we tend to fudge, we tend to cheat a little bit, and that would be called quitting in so many ways, as you're quitting on yourself.
Yeah, it starts the road down to the final quit, right?
Right.
These little slips along the way, and yeah, you're right. It's very important to involve somebody or something outside of yourself, because we can trick ourselves into thinking all kinds of things, right? But if you have to write it down or you're telling somebody else, it's legit evidence there. Right.
You know what I found? This sounds really crazy, but somebody mentioned it the other day called public accountability. And I went on Facebook when I was struggling, but I wanted to stop drinking altogether, and I went on Facebook. And I tell you, that was three years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. But when I said it to the whole public, I have kept my word on that. And because I was public about it, the same thing when I talked to my Never Too Late Ever mailing list. If I say something, I want them to hold me accountable, and I want to be faithful also to them. So there's something about being accountability because it takes us out of ourselves. And when we're on ourselves trying to be accountable, we just kind of fall down all the time. But when somehow somebody else is relying on us, it takes it up to another whole level. So that's one of my greatest joys is being accountable. And so if you're out there listening, I would find a friend, a group, somebody that you can trust to be accountable to, because that's so important for us not to quit. So what are some common things that you would say that cause people to quit? Is it maybe that they don't have accountability? What are some things
definitely, for sure. Or they haven't picked the right accountability partner. So you need to be very choosy, right? So I'll give you an example. For me, I have what people would call a strong personality, and it's important for me to get somebody that is equally as strong as me, because I can make excuses, justify, and just sort of bowl people over. So if I'm going to pick an accountability partner, I gotta have somebody that's pretty gutsy, right, with me. And that's hard to do in my own circle. So, even if you have to, pay a coach or something like that, it's good to have, you have to pick the right accountability tool or person, right, to use, because that's good.
Right.
And then our minds. We are like our own worst enemy, and we just start thinking we're not going as fast as we should, we're not getting the results as we should, or we deserve this, or we deserve that, right? And so I think one of the biggest tips to keep going is just to ignore your feelings. And I don't mean that I don't mean that in, a detrimental way. But you need to be able to realize when you're doing something hard, you're forming a muscle. Like, think about when you're working out, there's going to be a little bit of pain, and there's always a little pain and growth. And so sometimes we just sort of have to just keep going that next half mile, right? And ignore that we want to stop and sit there and eat our bonbons, right, on the side of the road.
Right.
So,
right.
I think we get so wrapped up, especially today in this culture. It's like, well, I feel, therefore I get to do this. And that sort of entitlement thing I think, is one of the things I believe I see people that are getting in their way, of keeping moving.
Right, right. So I would say there's the discipline, the